If you have a job interview coming up, you are one of the 2 or 3 candidates they have at the moment. So you are already a winner, and I want you to be and act confident as you should. In this video, I'll tell you how to get the job, and my advice is equally good for a college student applying for a summer job or a seasoned professional applying for a VP role in big tech. I have interviewed about 1,000 people over my career, and as a candidate, I was last hired as a level 9 director at Google. As a hiring manager, I had to rely on intuition and very formulaic and predictable interview questions. If you meet the technical requirements, I'll tell you how you can show the hiring manager you are the right candidate and get the job. So grab a cup of coffee and don't go anywhere. Welcome to CareersCast. In today's episode, I will share with you all the secrets I learned as a hiring manager and interviewer and provide recommendations on the best way to use your time, whether you have a few hours or a few days to prepare. Trying to evaluate whether someone is a good match in a 40-minute conversation is impossible, so most interviewers take an educated guess by asking a few standard questions that are very easy to predict and handle if you are prepared. Easy to predict, but most of us don't interview very often, and that's why I'm recording this video for you. The content of the video today is organized in 5 steps. Let's look at the first of them. So the first step is understand job interview psychology. When a company posts a job, it typically receives hundreds of applications. And those resumes are filtered by an algorithm and then by a recruiter, and the hiring manager usually looks at a handful of them, sorts them in order of priority, and starts scheduling interviews from the top of the list. So by the time you have a job interview, you are at the top of the list. You are the 1 in 100, walking with pride and confidence. While the hiring manager needs to push and squeeze you, consider that the best outcome from their perspective is that you are the right candidate. They want to make the decision to hire you and conclude the hiring process. They want you to succeed. A job interview is nothing more than a collaboration between you and the hiring manager working together towards the common goal of convincing each other that you are a good match. Nobody likes to be evaluated and judged, so being nervous is normal, and you don't need to hide that fact. But if you focus on the fact that you are the best candidate they have at this point, and your interviewer wants you to be successful, you'll feel more confident, optimistic, and perform better. Now let's look at getting ready for the interview. Before you show up, you need to do 3 things. The first thing you need to do is research the company you are interviewing with. The more you know about the company, the better, right? So if it is a large company, read their careers page where they usually describe the company culture for job candidates like you. If it is a consumer brand, understand the essence of the brand. So for example, if you're interviewing with Google, you should know the company has a bottoms-up culture and that they like to hire collaborative people who can work in environments with a very high level of tolerance for uncertainty. Let's say you're a college student, you're applying for a job, a summer job in a Banana Republic store. You should know that Banana Republic is part of a company that owns Old Navy, Gap, and Banana Republic. And you should know that the company you're interviewing with is the high end of those 3 brands, and they target young professionals as customers. And if you know the person who is gonna interview you, check their LinkedIn profile as well. It's always good to know something about the person you're gonna talk to in advance. So the second thing you need to do is you need to think about the technical requirements of the job, right? Every job posting has a list of requirements, and if you don't meet the requirements by far, don't waste your time, don't waste your interviewer's time, right? It's not the right job for you. If you meet all the requirements or you meet most of the requirements, you should try. And during the interview, they are probably going to test for those technical requirements. So for example, if you're applying for a software engineering role, you need to prepare for a system design coding interview. If you are applying for entry-level role in a restaurant front end, front of the house, and you have done that in the past, refresh your memory. They might ask you which reservation system you have experience with or used in the past. And then the third thing you need to do before you show up for interview is very important. You need to reflect about your career so far and pick two, three, or four stories, right, that are memorable, that can be used to highlight your personal attributes, your experience, your expertise. And when you do collect stories about your past, you can use the STAR framework. STAR is an acronym that says S for situation, T for task, A for action, and R for results. Right, so I'll give an example of a real story from my past. What's the situation? 20 years ago, I was designing systems to manage large internet data centers. And at some point, I shipped a product with a bug in it that caused the entire CNN website to go down for an entire day. What's the T? What's the task? Okay, now I have a crisis in my hand, and my task is to manage the damage to my customer and manage the damage to the reputation of my company. So that's my task, right? What was the action I took? Uh, as soon as I learned about this, I took a flight to Atlanta, which is the headquarters of CNN, and then I show up at their data center and says, I am the CTO of the company who caused this problem. I'm here to help. Tell me what to do. And I spent the entire day working with the technicians, crawling under the IT equipment in the data center so that we could recover the service. The customers, of course, were very upset about the problem. They are very surprised when I show up. And at the end of the day, right when we are celebrating the service coming back up, they're actually very grateful and very impressed with my commitment, right, with customers. So that was the result, right? So that's a story. It's a very simple story. It's a real story that I have told many times before. So I can very easily adapt the story to answer any type of behavioral question that is asked to me. And you can imagine that if someone asks, tell me a situation in which you face a difficult scenario with a customer, I can use this story, right? Tell me how do you react in crisis, I can use that story. Tell me about, we have a culture where we do anything, whatever it takes to reach a goal. Tell me why you would fit in this culture. I can use this story, right? So if I collect a few stories like that and I have practice telling them, I can use them to answer multiple types of questions. And I'm telling you that regardless of the level of the job you're applying for, you should have those STAR questions for you. If they don't come to you right now, don't worry, I'm going to give you more examples, but it is very important that you have them. And then lastly, if you're going to meet with your interviewers face to face, dress appropriately for the company and for the job. The goal is your dress code should not be a distraction during the interview. And if you're doing this via video conference, just make sure you have good lighting, your background is reasonable, and you test your internet connection before you show up for the interview. Now let's look at the step number 3 in our interview journey. At the beginning of the interview, after you get settled in, you're very likely to be asked to tell us a bit about yourself. My recommendation to you is do not waste time reading your resume back to them, which is what most candidates do. If you have the experience that's highly relevant to the job, mention that very briefly and very, very strongly, and say that you are ready to answer any question you might have about my previous experience. And then, because this is the first time the interviewer is really going to be paying attention to you and to what you're saying, use this opportunity to strongly position yourself as the right candidate for the job, as the candidate they want to hire to finish this process. So I'm going to give you 2 examples, and I hope with those you can triangulate and transpose to your context. So example number 1, I am a college student. I'm applying for a summer job at a Banana Republic store. So this is how I would handle the question. Tell me a bit about yourself. As indicated in my resume, I have worked in other consumer-facing roles, and I can leverage that experience here at Banana Republic. I can answer any question you might have about my previous experience. I am currently pursuing a major in marketing at University of Colorado, and I'm highly motivated to use this opportunity to understand how Banana Republic interacts with its customers. I'm aware you are part of a group including the Old Navy, the Gap, and Banana Republic, and your focus is providing an upscale experience to young professionals. I am part of that target demographics. I can identify with your customers, and when I join your team, I will strive to be a brand ambassador and deliver that experience to your shoppers. So this is example number one. Example number two, I am interviewing at Google to be a director of engineering. This is how I would handle that question. As you can see in my resume, I have designed data center management systems and had Google as my biggest customer for the past 15 years, so I know Google very well. I'm happy to provide more details about my previous experience. And after working with the company as a customer for so long, I am very familiar with and admire the company culture. I am very grateful for this opportunity to join Google to experience the culture from the inside. I believe my career experience prepared me to take this role in your organization, managing your engineering team. I believe I can onboard fast and will become an enthusiastic practitioner of the company culture. So, I hope these two examples can be transposed to your context. Notice that I didn't spend any time reading my resume. That's their job. And I use most of the time to show that I did my homework, that I understand the company, that I understand the role, and that I am enthusiastic about getting this job. Right? That's how you handle the tell me a bit about yourself question. And again, because this is the first time they are going to be paying attention to you, they are going to be, trying to read you, it is the right opportunity for you to say, I know you're having a hard time finding someone to take this job. I am that person. Hire me, and I'm going to solve your problem. Right? That's the goal when you are handling that first question in the interview. So we arrive at the step four in your journey, which is handling behavioral questions. So by now you did your preparation, you deliver a strong position statement, you demonstrate you meet the technical requirements for the job, and at some point during the interview, you'll be asked a behavioral question. This is where the decision is made, and this is where you get the job. First, what's the behavioral question? The formulation of the question can vary, but it usually takes one of two forms. They can ask you about your past, right? They can say, tell me about a situation in the past where something happened. Or they can ask a hypothetical question, saying, imagine you're working here and you're facing with this situation. How would you handle it? Or it can be a direct question, how do you handle difficult customers, for example? So while the formulation can change, right? The essence of the question is the same. They are providing you with a scenario and they are saying, what would you do in this scenario? What are the actions you would take and what are the results you expect from it? And this is where the interviewer is giving you the opportunity to, number one, demonstrate that you know how to handle the job, demonstrate you have functional knowledge to do the work. And number two, they give you the opportunity to express what is your cultural attitude when facing difficult situations. And your job in answering this question is to deliver exactly what they expect. You need to demonstrate that you have some method, some framework that allows you to do your work in any situation. On the subject of the behavioral question, can be anything, but 9 out of 10 times it will be one of the following, right? Is imagine that you're working with a difficult customer. Imagine that you're working with a difficult employee. Imagine that you're working with a difficult manager. Imagine that you have challenges collaborating with someone. Imagine that you have challenges prioritizing tasks with someone. Imagine that you are handling a crisis. Imagine that you have you're managing conflict in the workplace, right? Again, it could be anything else, but 90% of chances is going to be one of those. So once you prepare for it, because they are so predictable, you can handle it well. And I'm going to give you a few examples of how I would handle that. Right? So if I'm being interviewed at Google for an engineering director position, and they ask me, tell me about an occasion in your past where you had to handle a crisis, then I would answer the question and I would use my CNN story, and gonna use that story as a proof point. Because I already gave you an example of that, let me provide another example of a full answer to a behavioral question in the context of uh, finding a job as a salesperson at the local Banana Republic. So I actually worked with someone who was interviewing for a summer job there. And the question was, how do you handle difficult customers, right? And the same question could be asked, tell me about a situation in the past where you had to handle difficult customers, right? So this is how I would handle that question. When a customer is upset for any reason, I know I am the one to remain calm and professional. I then use my judgment to assess the situation and put it in one of three buckets. The bucket one is we made a mistake. We messed up and the customer has a good reason to be upset. Right? If that's the case, as a brand ambassador, I would do everything in my power to fix the experience and to make things right. If I'm not able to do that because of company policy or because I don't know what to do, I would ask for your help as my manager to help to fix the situation with the customer. There are situations in which I would put in a bucket number two, which is the customer is wrong and they are just being dishonest, trying to take advantage of the business. I would reject the demands politely but firmly. And if I cannot handle the situation, again, I would come for help from my manager. Now, in my experience working with customers, I find that in 90% of the cases, it's not those buckets one and two. In 90% of the case, if the customer is upset, it's because there was a misunderstanding or because they are bringing their external frustrations into the shop. And in these cases, again, I would remain calm and professional. I am very confident on my social skills to turn around the experience and either clarify the misunderstanding or be patient with the customer and bring the customer around, right, to the experience in the store. And I am very confident that I can overcome the situation, I can deliver the experience our customers expect, and I can maximize the results of our store. And just to mention a real experience I had, 3 years ago I was working for this milkshake shop and I took a customer order, prepared the shake, and delivered to the customer. The customer seems to be upset, was rude, saying that what I made did not match the description in the menu. I was calm and I quickly realized that the customer was upset about something else and misread the menu. I, I just handled it by remaking it the way she wanted and delivered to her. But then before she left, she came back to talk to me and she admitted that she was the one who made the mistake misreading the menu and she apologized for being rude. And she became a frequent customer and every time she would come, I would make the shake exactly the way she wanted. And we both jokingly called it the Nancy special. So so the situation was an unhappy customer because I was calm and because I made the experience right. The customer became a frequent customer, and we even had some fun, and that was the outcome. And I am very confident I can do the same thing here in this store. So this is how you completely handle the behavioral question. So what did I do in this answer? Right, first uh, I sound confident, right? I can handle these situations. I have this little framework, right? There are three buckets. The customer is right, the customer is wrong, and 90% of the case is my job to make the experience right, right? It's a very simple, very believable, very logical framework, but I show I have what it takes to do my job well, right? And then I provided a story that supports that, right? A story where I act that way, I am professional, and I have a difficult situation, and the outcome is good because I took the right actions, right? So if you can deliver that, right, and you can position it in the context of the company culture you're applying for, you're going to be successful, and that's the question that will get you the job, right? The technical questions will eliminate if you don't match the requirements, but this is where you actually get the job. And I know it might be sound too complicated, right, the first time you hear, but I can guarantee you, once you understand the structure of a behavioral question, you can recognize it, and because you know what to do, you're going to feel confident and you're going to do great. So at the end of this video, I'm going to link you to another video that is specific about handling behavioral questions. And we arrive at the last step in your journey, which is closing and following up, right? So at the end of the interview, in 90% of the cases, the interviewer is going to give an opportunity to you to ask questions. At this point, if you follow everything and if you did well, you pretty much have the job. Yes, you might have questions about the process, about the timing. I suggest you don't spend the banter. You can always ask those questions outside the interview, right? So if you're given the opportunity to ask questions, I would use it to project a vision of you already working in the company and you are actually asking questions about that scenario. The type of questions I would ask is, when I join your team and I am in this position, how do you measure success, right? How do you tell if I'm being successful doing the job? Another similar question would be, as you decide to hire me for this role, what's the advice you give to me to prepare for that first day in the job? The type of question I would like to hear from a candidate that's doing well in the interview. And this is the type of question I would ask if I am being interviewed. And that closes, of course, after you finish the interview, especially if you're feeling good about it, follow up with an email message after the interview, thanking for the opportunity. Again, reinforcing something good that happened during the interview. Something like, I felt really good about when you asked me this question, and I feel I really belong there. And of course, there is a performance aspect in a job interview, right? A lot of times you have done all the homework, but when it gets there, you can't perform, right? And that's fine. Interviews is also a numbers game. It's okay for you to fail two interviews because in the third one you get it right. But if you follow everything I suggested, you're gonna do well. You're gonna get the job, and the rest is history. And the next video I'm gonna recommend is more specific about answering behavioral questions, because I know that is probably the most difficult part of an interview, is preparing for those behavioral questions. So watch the next video and see you get the job, and see you in the next episode of CareersCast.